Hello, my name is Donna McSpadden, and I'm one of two personal counselors we have at Pulaski Tech. And you may have noticed there's a difference between personal counseling, academic counseling, disability services, career counseling, but we're all part of student services. And one of the things that we really are hoping to do for Pulaski Tech students is add to their experience, ways to help you be successful. And so our topic today are the 20 top things instead of the top 10. It's going to be the top 20 today. Things to help you be successful. And the topic lends itself mostly to study skills today. But I want you to know that the rest of us are here. If anything I say today brings up questions, if you have anything that's getting in the way of you being able to concentrate in class, deal with life, because you know what? Life happens while you're trying to go to school, right? You notice that? We actually have t-shirts in our department because I find myself saying that so much. Life happens. You want to just let school be your priority, but bills have to be paid, you have to go to work, people get sick, things happen. So as that happens to you as you're a student, please come and talk to me or advising or anyone in student services. And let us see if we can help you do some problem solving, connect to resources. You don't have to do this by yourself, I guess is the other part of that equation. So let's get to our list for today, which are going to focus on those 20 things that we think are going to help you be successful, mainly in the classroom. So let's just jump right into this. You all have a handout. We're looking at the 20 things, and we're going to start with number 1. And that is to know your formula for the amount of time that you need to study. Has anyone in here taken college seminar yet? So you may have gone over this in that class. Basically, there is a rule of thumb to go by. A lot of students think, oh, let me just sign up for this class. I can squeeze in, 12 hours out of my work week. I can show up for class. I'm going to be fine. What they're not realizing is you need to study. You need time outside of class. You can't just hope to absorb everything about an entire semester's worth of material by just sitting in class. So let's look. Let's say, how many hours are you taking, Allison?
I think
12? 9?
Well, one of them's a 2.5-hour class.
Okay. So
and then
total,
2 other regular classes.
one's a 2.5?
And then I have 2 normal classes, and that's all I have to take.
So the number of credit hours you're taking, though, is 12, okay? And you're not signed up yet, but do you know if you're going to be full-time or part-time?
Part-time, I think it's 10.
Okay. And how many hours? 14. Oh, okay. Do you have pencils with you? If not, we're going to have to do this in our head. So write down the number of semester hours that you're enrolled in. So let's say we'll just take Allison, for example. If she's got 12 semester hours, then multiply the number of hours that you're actually sitting in class face-to-face with the instructor. Okay, that's your 12 hours a week. Multiply that by 2 to 3 times that number. So you should be studying 2 to 3 hours for every hour that you're in class. You should be studying outside of class. Did you realize that? Do you know how many hours we're talking about? So let's say we're gonna make A's, right? So we're gonna say 3 hours. So let's say 3 times 12. How many? That's 36 hours. 36 hours a week you should be studying. Now that's an average. We're talking about reading the chapter, going over your notes, doing research, writing the essays, studying for the exams. We're talking about on average. Some subjects you may not have to spend that much time, others more. So if you've got the 12 hours that you're in class, the 36 hours that you're studying, the bottom part of our formula asks us to add that together. 48 hours. So you're spending 48 hours in school. 12 is the number of hours you're sitting in class with the structure and the lecture and all of that. The other hours you're studying outside of class. So dedicated to school in any given week. You've got 40 plus hours if you've got a full-time load. Number 2, on our list. You have to block out that time to study. You can't just assume that's going to magically appear on your day. You can't let everything else be a priority and say, I'll study right before I go to bed if there's any time left over, if I have any energy or mental power left over. If you do that, then school is not a priority, is it? It becomes it gets the leftovers. And so you're not going to do your best work, you're not going to be able to retain your information, you're not going to be successful. Now sometimes people get sick, children get sick, there's jobs, the boss says you've got to do this or you're not going to be able to keep working here. Sometimes other things juggle for our attention and priority. But if we continue to go back to the fact that I'm a student, school's important to me, when things are where I can control them, then I'm going to continue to factor school and study time in on my calendar. Okay, number 3, learn to take good notes in class. This seems obvious, but who had to learn how to take notes? You can't just write down every word that the instructor's saying. You've got to come up with a system, a method, a way to keep up, to make good notes, so that when you go back and look at them the next day, you can make some sense out of them. Number 4, read and review all your assignments. I'm amazed. Students come to college and think they don't have to read the chapters. Now, how are you going to learn the material if you don't read the chapters? But somewhere along the way, junior high, high school, they started getting study guides. We don't typically give study guides in college. This is college. So you have to read the material. You can't expect to be spoon-fed. You can't expect the instructor or professor to know your particular learning style, your speed of reading, your way of processing information. So you are responsible for reading, keeping up with the assignments, all of that. Taking that personal responsibility is so important. Okay, number 5, go to class prepared. But if you can't be prepared, still go to class, right? Because you don't know what you're going to pick up on. You don't know what you're going to miss if you're not there. But your goal is to be prepared, stay current. Students who get behind and then find themselves the night before the final trying to read chapters that should have been read the first week of class, it's not humanly possible. Number 6, before a study session, get all your materials together. I say this is kind of like when you're trying to put a child to bed. Can I have a drink? I need to go to the bathroom. I don't have my teddy. Treat yourself the same way you would trying to get a child organized to get ready for bed. Okay, this is where I'm going to study. I've got good lighting. I've got my pencils. I've got my calculator. I've got all the books I need. I have paper. I've got my laptop. It sounds silly, but you may even have to write yourself a checklist. If you're very disorganized, people who have attention deficit, people who have a lot of children running around, you have to be conscious about being organized, getting your stuff together. And having a specific place to study helps with that. We're very much conditioned animals. So if we study in the same place, our body and mind gets that message of, oh, here's where I study. And you're usually a little bit able to keep your focus. Okay, here's a hard one, number 7. Tell everybody that you live with, I'm about to study now. I used to put a sign on the door. I went back, got my master's degree after my youngest one was still in college. I put a sign on the door that said, if there's no blood, don't knock on the door. So I'm teaching the people around me, studying is a priority for me. And yes, I'm available if there's a crisis, of course. But if you just need to come in and tell me you're hungry, wait a minute. You're grown up, you go get something to eat. You know what I'm saying? I don't mean we need to be mean or harsh, but in my counseling profession, we teach people how to treat us. So if we allow families and friends, the cell phone, the TV, the internet, to interrupt our boundary of this is my study time, then it will continue to happen. Just experiment for yourself and see if you can give your full undivided attention to something and see if you don't get through the material faster and if you don't comprehend it and retain it. And experiment with those different kinds of background noise. Things like a television or a computer screen, things that are not a consistent noise, and things that have flickering lights, we know do interrupt our brain signals. Same thing goes for trying to go to sleep with a television on. Your brain is constantly absorbing those signals rather than going into a deep sleep. Okay, so number 9, make sure you're comfortable but not too comfortable. I used to try to read my English literature and fall asleep, and I realized that's because I'm trying to read in bed. So the desk is for studying, the bed is for sleeping. So you want to be comfortable, you want to have a chair that supports you, but not so comfortable that you're just going to drift right off to sleep. Number 10, prioritize your work. Do the most difficult task first. Now, why should we do the hardest thing first?
Get it out of the way. Yes.
The temptation is to do the fun stuff first or the easy stuff first. But again, our brains do better when we're fresh, right? And so if you've got, it doesn't matter which subject's hard for you, whether it's English or math or science. A lot of us tend to want to say, well, let me get the math out of the way first because I have to really concentrate harder. Depends on the person. But choose your least favorite or most difficult or the thing that's going to need the most focus and put it first. Okay, number 11, know your learning style. There's several different assessments if you don't already know whether you process information better by hearing, seeing, touching. There are different learning styles. Again, College Seminar can help you with those. Again, Learning Assistance Center, library, those are resources. It's more than we have time to go into here. But if you don't know what your learning style is, come and talk with someone and let us help you figure it out, because that's important to how you need to study. It's also important to how you will take notes and how you will experience the classroom. For instance, if you're an auditory learner and you need to hear things, you may need to ask the instructor if you can tape the lectures so that you can play them back, since you learn by hearing. You see? So there's a lot of different things we can do that can help you along the way, but we got to know at the beginning what's best for you. Number 12, use multiple methods to review your material. There's conflicting research about how many times you need to hear something repeated. And again, that's going to differ per person. So let's say you read the chapter, you take notes, you listen to the lecture, you review your notes within 24 hours, which is recommended. If they get colder than 24 hours, you're not going to be able to remember what you were writing. Maybe you make flashcards. Maybe you get with a study group. That's still only 6. Maybe we review one more time for the test. Finally, that's 7. Do you see how much time you put into just one particular subject or learning one particular thing? So really think about, how am I going to do the repetition? Do I need to make note cards? Do I need to record it? People who are visual learners, sometimes they draw illustrations besides their notes, pictures, things that help them. Coming up with little songs or sayings to help you memorize things. Whatever you have to do to get those repetitions in. Then there is a lot of agreement in the fact that if you are able to teach what you are learning to someone else, then you've got it. So tell your grandkids, the dog, somebody, sit down. Let me tell you what I learned in class today. And if you can verbalize it, then you have probably created those neural pathways in your brain to your memory, and you're going to be more likely to be able to come up with that information on the test or a couple of years later when you're on the job and you go, hey, you know what? I learned that in that class. Let me use that. Okay? Number 13. Now, this sounds a little odd. I'm not recommending that you lie to yourself, as some people think that affirmations are. But here's something that works. Tell yourself, I'm a good student. I got this. I'm going to make an A on that test. I love to learn. You come up with your own pep talk, okay? And then you repeat that every day. You repeat it before a test. You repeat it when you sit down to study. Maybe you write it on the top of your note cards. And here's why that works. We know that thinking positively creates a chemical reaction in our body that actually helps us think. It helps us feel better. It helps us relax. For instance, if you ever just listen to a song and you feel better, or you read a morning devotional, or you hear a motivational speaker talk, you feel better? That's the opposite of all this negative self-talk that a lot of us go through in our heads. You know, that, oh, I'm stupid, or I'm never going to be able to do this, or, you know, you hear that teacher, or, you know, that crazy uncle that said, you're never going to amount to anything. Those are the voices that sometimes stick with us. Erase those. No good, they're not helping, and they're not even true. Right? That's not true. Crazy uncle said you're never going to amount to anything. Well, guess what? Here I am at Pulaski Tech. Eat my dust. Watch me go. Right? So you want to focus in on what's the truth. The truth is you can learn. The truth is you do have goals. You are motivated. You are here. You are going to be something. Those are the things you want to keep telling yourself. And then on number 14, when you're trying to study, your mind's wandering off, thinking about other things, don't get frustrated. Don't get angry at yourself. Just go, oh, wait, caught myself. Okay, back to studying. And just get that habit of returning to your focus, returning to your priority. Number 15, if you start to worry, which most of us do, those negative thoughts are going to come in, tell yourself, this is study time. This is not worry time. And again, it's almost like we're reparenting ourselves in some ways. It's like you would tell a child, this is quiet time. This is not time to run and yell and scream. So again, tell yourself, it's not time to worry, it is time to study. And a really interesting technique has been gaining a lot of momentum with counselors recently. And it's using this whole idea that our brains are wired to bring up those worst case scenarios. We are wired to think about all the what ifs. It's important to us to be able to do that, and it is actually a critical thinking skill that you need. But it's like if it takes over too much of our thinking, then it becomes a negative. So you can keep an actual notebook that is your worry notebook. Okay? Sounds silly, but I'm going to challenge you to do this. So we start to discipline our brain to, yes, bring those things up that we need to know, but I don't have to follow each negative thought to its complete conclusion. I will deal with that at the appropriate time. That way, you feel more in control versus the negative thoughts. Do you believe that's possible? Have you ever experienced anything like that for yourself, where you actually start to try to take control of your thoughts? Because most of us think if we have a thought, we have to believe it. If it comes into my mind, it must be true. Or if I have an emotion, I need to do something about it. I'm feeling it. But no one ever told us, no, you can stop. We call it getting in the gap. You can stop, look at this thought, pause, get in the gap between the thought and the action, and make a decision. Do I want to do anything about that right now? Would it be better to do something about it later? Or maybe it's something I can't do anything about. Number 16, take a 5-minute break every hour. Get up, stretch, do some push-ups, get your circulation going again, get a drink, and then go back. We know that we are spending too much time these days over our computers, over our electronics. We're not even breathing deeply because we're hunched over so much. So get up, move around, stretch, roll your shoulders. Try to do some things to get yourself refreshed. Number 17, change the subject at least every 2 hours, maybe every hour, kind of depending on your attention span. When you hit the wall on something, when you are so exhausted with a subject, do something differently. Don't tell yourself, I got to power through this. Most of us have been taught that's giving up, don't do that, just do it. But that's counterproductive when you're trying to study. Okay, so number 18, this is kind of similar to what we're talking about, but it's a technique called the power of 48 minutes. And I would suggest that you start out using 15 minutes instead of 48, and let me tell you why. Children, people with attention deficit, those of us in our culture that we're so used to being overstimulated, 48 minutes even seems like a long time to me. So when you start practicing this idea, start with 15. And what you do is you set a timer, either on your phone, a kitchen timer, whatever, stopwatch, and say, okay, for 15 minutes I am focused. I'm going to work as hard as I can work. I'm going to do my best work. Nothing's going to distract me. Go. And you work for 15 minutes. The timer goes off and you go, whew, okay, look at how much I got done. Go get a drink, set the 15 minutes, go. It's amazing taking those bite-sized pieces. You can chip away at an elephant. Before long, you're done. It doesn't seem as overwhelming as telling yourself, man, this is going to take 6 hours. You know, you're defeated before you start. So this works with adults, works great with kids. Let's say you have a 5-year-old, you would want to only give them 1 minute for each hour of their age. So set the timer for no more than 5 minutes. Say, okay, 5 minutes, we're going to race the clock. Let's see how many toys we can pick up before the timer goes off. And it becomes a game, and they also learn how to do things in segments. So try it. Yeah. Number 19, use your resources. We have so many things on campus to help you connect to your success. So the Learning Assistance Center, does everyone know where that is? 3rd floor of this building, room 318. So right up these stairs, take a left.
What do they do in that office?
The Learning Assistance Center, we would call it tutoring, right? We grew up calling it tutoring. It's free. There are mastered, prepared tutors that are just sitting there waiting for you to come and ask them questions.
I thought they only had like tutors in like 303 or something like that. So the learning assistant above our head.
Oh, no. No, those are offices. Right up above us is where the offices are, the academic, what's it called? Academic
Success
Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was
those are the offices of all the instructors who teach
Right.
college seminar and the developmental classes. But if you go up the stairs here and go left, it's in that corner of the building. It is 303. And then
I think it's like 303 and then it's at the corner is what you're saying.
Right, in the corner.
in the corner.
So they have tutors to help with math and English and the sciences, and some of them are very course specific, and then others are more general. But you just go in there and let them know what you need help with, and they'll match you up with whoever's on duty that day. That can, and they're like, many of them also teach here. They are all people who love to teach, and they are very skilled at that one-on-one. So sometimes that's helpful. You may not be able to feel like you can get it when you're sitting in a group, but somebody re-explains it to you one-on-one, and you go, oh, yeah, that's better, got it. To number 20, which I want you to know is, your grade is not you. It's a result you have produced. Pardon me. So when you look at your grades, know that it's an opportunity for you. You think you can look at it that way? I have to be honest, I was never able to look at it that way. I was all about getting the grade for the sake of the grade, and somehow I felt like that grade was a reflection of me as a person. And I think that's a disservice we do to our kids if we don't teach them that they are a separate, whole, different person. They're not just their grades, or whether they're the best person on the football team, skill-wise or whatever. Does that make sense to you? So see if you can separate that in your own mind about who you are as a person versus the outcome you produce in a class. Library, student services, academic advising, disability services, career counseling, personal counseling. Ask questions. Even if you're not in the right office, somebody's going to direct you to where you need to be to get your questions answered. Don't feel like you have to do any of this alone. You know, Pulaski Tech's tagline is dedicated to your success. And our topic today has been 20 things that successful students know. So, you know, what I would want you to get from this is if we didn't cover it today and you don't already know it, then continue to ask those questions because that's why we're here. We want to see you reach your goals, get out into the community, and start telling other people, go to Pulaski Tech because that's where you're going to be successful. So, number 20, just to reinforce that, is remember, you are not your test results or your grade. You are an individual, you are worthy, you are unique, you are special, and you are bringing your gifts into the world. So we are happy that you chose Pulaski Tech to help you on that.